think it's incredibly important in our industry. I don't want to just take a booking these days. I mean, I understand as well from a point of view of being an established wedding photographer that I can make those decisions these days. When I started out, you know, I had to take every booking that came my way because I was trying to establish my business, but I'm not in that position anymore. And I can afford to be picky, but also, even more important than that, I need my couples to book the right photographer. It's too important of a day for them to get that wrong. And I'll let you into a story, into a little thing that happened this year. I had a lovely couple, chatted to them on the Zoom. We connected really well, and I had a good feeling about them. But a month out from their wedding, which was meant to be this year, the bride sent me a really lovely message, which must have been difficult for her to send. But she basically said, since she'd booked me, and she'd got obsessed with wedding photographers, she'd kind of not changed her mind about me as a photographer, but she realized that her vision for her day had changed. When she originally booked me, she said she wanted all candid, natural, nothing really posy, all that kind of stuff. But by the time the wedding was coming along, it turned out she wanted something completely different to that. She wanted a very highly controlled editorial style wedding where everything was about the details, and you know, they spent a lot of money coming up with a theme. And I think she realized that maybe that wasn't my strength as a photographer. I'm actually better at that than maybe even I realized myself, as some of my more recent weddings have come, but it's certainly not something I sell myself on. And I knew it was difficult for her to send me that email, but I really respected her for doing so, because I said, well, that's really important, because if she hadn't have done that and then I'd gone and done a normal thing and she hadn't got what she wanted, then she can't do that day again. And it would have caused problems for her and me. So I said to her that I totally understand that. And that's at the heart of my business. It has been for a long time. I think it's really important that my couples get this right. So I do always say that. And I've been told by photographers that, you know, aren't you bringing an element of doubt into their mind by doing it? I might be, but I believe in myself enough that I think that I can do it. And I'll say to them, you know, go back through my Instagram, make sure you're really happy with what I do. Make sure you know how I shoot. You know, I'm quite open about what I do and don't do, and what I'm good and not so good at doing. And I think, and I say, if that aligns with their values, then we're going to be great. I mean, another thing I'll say to them as well is something like, you know, I like a sunset picture as much as the next person, but if I ask you and you're not interested, I'm not going to make you go. They're your wedding photos, they're not mine. If you want me to do it, I'll smash it and I'll do my best I possibly can, but I'm not going to drag you off the dance floor to do something for me when you don't want me to do it.
That's the importance of putting the client in the center of it, rather than imposing your own ideas onto the client. I mean, it's interesting, you know, because obviously your shooting style is very different from a lot of other, I call them standard wedding photographers. And of course, everything on your website, for example, also is sort of geared towards that. That's what I really like about, you know, your website. Everything is just a little bit, you know, everything's a little bit different. It's a little bit, I mean, I'm using that term, alternative. Everything's a little bit just not your typical wedding website. And it really it hangs together as a brand really well, you know, and
yeah. I like that you've said that, because the branding thing, right? I'm one of those people that hates corporate talk and all that kind of stuff, but my brand is I know the importance of it. I'm not totally unaware of it, but my brand has come around completely naturally, because I think, again, I've lent into my personality. I've realized that it's really important to be authentic as a person. And I think I'd like to think I'm a fairly authentic person. You know what you're going to get. And I think with my branding, I think I realized that the best way for me to connect with the right kinds of couples is to just be honest about who I am. I think people can read my website and see my pictures. They've got a pretty good feeling of what I am straight away. Yes, I appreciate it's going to be slightly different to your standard wedding photographer, whatever that is now, and that's constantly changing as well, isn't it? But I think people are going to know really quickly if they like what I do. And again, I'll go back to another little thing that happened in my career years ago. I may have even spoke to you about this before. It wouldn't have been on the podcast, but it might have been another time. But something happened which was quite funny, and it pushed me along this route of actually just believing in myself a bit, even though that's kind of ironic and funny, because I'm full of self-doubt and I've got massive imposter syndrome, but I back myself. I have to, even though I find it uncomfortable to do it. But I think it's important to do so. I need to be a little bit more concerned with posting things that I love, that I think people are going to connect with, that really let them know who I am as a photographer, so that no one books me by accident, you know? And the thing that's happened since then, one, my brand has become more established. Yes, I've fortunately gone on to win some awards and had that kind of recognition, which is absolutely lovely. But I think more importantly, it really set out who I'm for. and who I'm not for, actually, who I'm not for probably in more defined terms, actually. But yeah, and it's worked. It's worked. I love my couples. I just don't get problem couples. I don't have issues with my couples. They know what to book in. We have really good fun. They love what I do. They love our personality. No one's surprised by the way I shoot. I don't even get messages from you. I thought you were going to do this. I don't get any of that. And I put that down to the fact that I'm very open about who I am. And again, I don't think anything that's got anything to do with necessarily how good you are at photography or how good I am compared to other photographers or that kind of. I think it's about people knowing what they're booking, and knowing who I am as a person, and that coming across in an authentic way. Hopefully, I think that's part of the reason why my business is doing so well. Yeah.
It's all really about that matchup between, photographer and the right client. Because you're right, you don't want all the clients, you don't need all the clients, you just need the right clients. That's the thing. I see that in the headshot market all the time. I never really understand why somebody would give me a call and ask me to basically shoot what's effectively a passport photo. That's not what I do. That's completely not what I do. And and I'll pass those people on.
I think because of the way I shoot now, I don't get what I call speculative inquiries. So people that inquire with me now have already invested in me in some way. They're either my whole business is essentially built on referrals. It has been since I started. I don't do SEO or any of that kind of stuff. I'm rubbish at being consistent on social media and posting. I think I've had one Google inquiry in 3 years. It's just not how I push my business. So people that inquire with me have had a proper look and they know what they're going to get. And one thing I like about my inquiries is that they nearly always reference something very distinctly me, either a particular photo or something that or often it'll be couples that met me at other weddings and they'll reference the wedding they were at and how they thought I did something funny or they loved the pictures that I'd taken or something like that. And I think for me, that's really lovely because it feels like I've built this myself, and I often get other photographers ask me, how'd you get these bookings or how'd you do? I don't really know. I do instinctively know, but I don't know how to explain that to people. It's just something that's always worked well for me. And again, I put it down to the fact that I think I'm quite an honest person, and I put integrity at the heart of my business. And so I've got no qualms about saying to somebody, I'm not the right photographer for you. I've passed on many bookings to other photographers that are a little bit more traditional than me, if you like, or because what happens is what does happen with referrals is someone will say to somebody, I know a photographer. The couple will then send me a message, but they haven't actually done any other research. I haven't looked at 5 photographers. I haven't really worked out what they want. And then they'll talk to me and then I'll realize really quickly that actually they're looking for something that I don't do. And so rather than me just take the money and shoot the wedding, I will say to them, actually, I think you might be better off talking to this photographer because they do that kind of style of photography way better than me. And I think you're going to enjoy your photos more. That's happened multiple times over the years.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.